Have you ever been on a team that's just struggling? You can feel it, right? The air gets thick and there's this unspoken blame floating around. So today we're going to dig into why that happens and, more importantly, how we can shift from pointing fingers to taking real action. To true leadership.
Oh, you know this moment. A project just hits a snag, a deadline gets blown, and the first question that hangs in the air is always, whose fault is this? It really feels like a natural instinct, but that one little question, it can set the entire tone for how a team works together.
All right, so let's pull back the curtain on this whole blame game. What is actually happening deep down when a team starts pointing fingers instead of, actually finding solutions? I mean, think about it. Teamwork is a fundamental part of life, from our jobs to our families to just about everything. But here's the truth nobody loves to admit. Wherever you find teams, you are going to find failure. It's inevitable. So, the real test isn't about trying to avoid it. It's all about how we respond when it happens. So, let's be honest for a second. When a teammate drops the ball, what's your gut reaction? Is it to understand why it happened? Or is it to figure out who did it? That small difference, that shift from seeking an explanation to just assigning blame, well, that's everything.
So the big question is, how do we break this cycle of blame? Well, it turns out one of the biggest companies in the world got super curious about that exact question, and they poured a ton of resources into finding the answer.
Yep, Google, a company obsessed with data, put over 180 of its own teams under a microscope. They weren't looking for fuzzy feelings or anecdotes. They wanted the real, measurable ingredients that made some teams absolutely soar, while others just stalled out. And what they found was kind of surprising.
So it turns out the secret sauce wasn't about just hiring the smartest people in the room. It was all about how they interacted. The best teams, they were great at noticing how others were feeling. If someone was quiet or seemed a little off. And in meetings, everyone actually got a chance to speak. No one person dominated the whole conversation. But the big one, the one that stood above everything else, was that first pillar.
And this right here, this is the absolute game changer. Psychological safety. It's that feeling, that deep down belief that you can be vulnerable with your team. It means you can ask a so-called dumb question, you can admit you made a mistake, or you can pitch a wild idea without being afraid that you'll be shamed or punished for it. It is the perfect antidote to the blame game.
But here's the thing, this idea of psychological safety, it isn't just a team concept. It directly impacts how each and every one of us handles our own responsibilities. Because let's face it, even in the best environments, the pressure to deliver is very, very real.
And what's the most common form of pressure we all deal with? The deadline. It just hangs over everything we do. This image of a clock made out of sticky notes, it just perfectly captures that feeling, right? That feeling that our responsibility is measured not just by what we do, but by how fast we can get it done.
And yeah, sometimes that pressure can help us focus for sure, but it has a hidden cost. That constant feeling of being on the clock takes a real toll on our mental and emotional energy, whether we notice it in the moment or not.
This stress meter shows you exactly what that internal journey looks like. That pressure to be responsible can crank us up from feeling calm and in control all the way up to anxious or even full-on panic. And just think about it. When we're operating in that red zone, how likely are we to respond to a mistake with curiosity instead of just blame? Not very. Okay, so if managing our own pressure is step one, what's step two? Well, it's about moving beyond our responsibility to helping manage the environment for everyone else. And that's where we really start talking about leadership. And when you really look at it, leadership isn't just one single skill. It's more like a whole constellation of different qualities. Looking at this map, you see things you'd expect, like passion and determination. But you also see things like humility and sincerity. It's this beautiful blend of strength and empathy that truly defines a great leader.
So let's just pull out a few of these, right? A leader's integrity. That's what makes a team feel safe in the first place. Their courage is what allows them to own a mistake instead of passing the blame. Their compassion helps them understand the pressure their team is under. And their confidence is what can turn a really difficult situation into a moment of growth for everyone.
But here's the thing, and this might be the most important takeaway of our whole conversation today, just having all those amazing qualities isn't enough, because leadership isn't a title you're given or a personality type. It's something you do.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? You can have the absolute best intentions and the most brilliant ideas in the world, but until you translate them into action, they don't really mean much. Leadership is defined by what you actually put into practice, day in and day out.
This chart makes it crystal clear. Look, ideas are a good start. They're valuable. Promises are even better. They show you have intent. But actions are the only thing that gets a perfect score. At the end of the day, they are the ultimate measure of a leader's real impact.
So here's what it all boils down to. We can talk all day about teamwork and leadership qualities, but when the pressure's on, when things get tough, the only thing that leaves a lasting impact, the only legacy we truly build, is what we choose to do.
And that leaves us with this final question. If leadership isn't a position, if it's not about your job title, but it's really about taking action, then that means every single one of us has the capacity to lead every single day. So, what's one action, big or small, that you'll take today to make things just a little bit better?